At a certain point in time before YouTube even existed, G4TV was one of the most amazing premises for a TV channel I could ever think of. A channel dedicated entirely to gaming, and as a kid, it was some of the best TV viewing that I could possibly imagine. It had a good run in the early 2000s, then sadly G4TV went silent in 2014, only to be revived in 2021 for the last time. This most recent revival brought back classic programs like Extended Play and Screensavers, Xplay and Attack of the Show, and they added in some other shows by famous gaming YouTubers such as Scott the Woz. Speaking of new hosts for this generation, they also brought on this woman, Indiana Juniper Black, not to be confused with the coniferous Indiana juniper tree, who was formerly known as Devin Rayanne Moore, who also goes by her online moniker Frosk or Frosk. And if that's not confusing enough, Frosk, who was a co-host of the new Xplay, went on to attack the very audience that watches the show. This rant was received unbelievably poorly in a way I'm sure Frosk was not expecting. Now, a lot of people would point to this incident as the catalyst in the downfall of G4TV, that she single-handedly killed off a beloved franchise and channel in one single rant and literally put everyone involved out of a job. Now, if you ask me, I think there's a little more to it, and we will certainly get into it. Dive into what Frost said, the sexism in the video gaming industry, the problem with painting in broad strokes, and her part in all of this. But first I wanted to tell you a story about the full history of where G4TV actually came from and the past controversies, because trust me, there was a big one. I'd be willing to bet a lot of people don't even know the history of this channel. And that's no fault of their own, because this channel, G4TV, actually spans generations, and some people watching this video right now might not have even been born at the beginning of the TechTV G4TV legacy. What's TechTV, you ask? Well, we got a lot to talk about. So to all you truly epic gamers out there, have your mom make you some tendies, grab a dew, get all cozy, and let's take a look at the rise and fall again of G4TV. First, please give me some time to set the stage, and you really have to get into this headspace to truly understand the reason that this channel was so popular to begin with. It all starts with ZDTV, which came out all the way back in 1998, but only in select areas. It wasn't until 2001 where DirecTV acquired the channel, renamed it to TechTV to spread to all its customers, and put it on channel 273. 2001 was a fun time. We had all just survived the Y2K mania. We were coasting into the new millennium. Computers were becoming more affordable, showing up in middle-class American households. We called it the family computer, and it was slammed on some desk or somewhere weird like your kitchen. I was privileged enough that my parents had a beautiful compact Presario 5360. Just look at this absolute unit, weighing in at 25 pounds with a lightning-fast 450 MHz AMD K62, 64 megabytes of RAM, and floppy and compact disk drive. Simply gorgeous. As far as tech goes, this is all we had. Social media was still evolving, Twitch and YouTube were not even a concept at the time, and gaming entertainment was limited to, well, playing video games. So imagine my surprise when I found out that TechTV was available on DirecTV, which we had, and it was like pure gold, a channel entirely dedicated to technology and gaming. There was a void of this kind of entertainment, and TechTV came in to fill that hole. I'll never forget my first time seeing it, coming home from school and sitting on the couch to see this guy, Neal Laporte, helping out someone with their computer problems on this call-in show named Call for Help. I was pretty captivated by how I was watching something on TV about computers, something that I was actually interested in, and I was learning stuff from it. TechTV was a very different landscape from where we see G4TV today. If I had to sum it up, I felt like TechTV was for legitimate nerds. For example, you turn to the first episode of the Screensavers, a program on TechTV at the time, and they're talking about how to install Linux and create a dual boot system with Windows, or discussing how to install printers on a home network. And as a kid, I might not have understood a lot of what they were talking about, but to be totally honest, it inspired me to go out and try to learn things like HTML, to make my own websites on X Pages, if anyone remembers what that is. But of course, it wasn't just those two shows. There were a large list of programs which TechTV featured. Fresh Gear, a show dedicated to featuring the latest cameras, video cards, CPUs, PCs, MP3 players, and anything else tech-related. Robot Wars, a badass show where people made custom robots to fight each other, which ran from 1998 to 2004. Oh, look, it's Jeremy Clarkson.
With that, back to the studio.
And of course, everyone's favorite show, Xplay, which was originally called Extended Play, a game review show featuring host Adam Sessler. While the most popular shows on TechTV were probably Screensavers, Call for Help, and Xplay, there's a vast list of shows that were featured on the channel. You can surprisingly find a lot of the old episode reruns in playlists on YouTube now. Reading through the comments on these old reruns, you really see how much these shows meant to people and how they inspired people to get into computer programming, engineering, IT, or anything anything else technology related. And I can relate because there's certainly a sort of charm and nostalgia watching these shows again after not having seen them in over 20 years. Everyone involved in Tech TV, from the hosts of the shows to the audience they spoke to, were all legitimately excited about technology at the time. At the risk of dating myself and making me seem like an old bastard, there really will never be a time like this again. Tech and gaming simply wasn't mainstream and popular like it is now. Now everyone and their mother has a stream where they play video games. Minecraft, Roblox, Among Us, games like that are popular with kids. But back during the early 2000s and the Tech TV era, this just wasn't the case. So to see an entire TV channel dedicated to computers and technology that was truly a niche subject back then is an experience that was hard to describe. However, things would begin to change when G4 TV came to the party. During Tech TV's release, G4 TV was launched as a competitor. I'm guessing they saw the potential of a tech and gaming channel to play to this previously untapped market, but during their battle for dominance of nerd culture on TV, they met face to face and decided to drop their weapons, do a fusion dance, and become G4 Tech TV. So what did this change exactly? In the beginning, G4 Tech TV added gaming to the fold, and there was an overhaul to a lot of shows to make them more entertaining in a sense. No longer was a show like the Screensavers just about solving IT issues, it was rebranded to Attack of the Show, and new segments were added. Interviews with popular figures, new segments, and live band shows. I mean, hell, on the first episode of Attack of the Show, they had Real Big Fish perform live. I'm just realizing now that I'm at the age to where I could point to bands that I love, and the younger generation would have no idea what I'm talking about. Or even know what ska is. Just listen to Sell Out and you'll like it. Xplay was rebranded and introduced us to Morgan Webb, who moving forward would be Adam Sessler's permanent co-host. But overall, there was a more fun or goofy, for lack of a better word, attitude added to some of the shows that was missing from Tech TV. Now, I'm not saying this was good or bad. I still thoroughly enjoyed all the shows on G4 Tech TV in the beginning of its run. What I really appreciated most was the addition of more gaming-related shows, like Arena, a show which was my first introduction to MLG-style competitions, and they had live play-by-play commentary. Icons was another show which focused on prominent people, companies, and series in the video game industry. It gave us mini documentaries on companies like Bungie, BioWare, Activision, Naughty Dog, people like Tim Schafer, Shigeru Miyamoto, and franchises like Splinter Cell, Madden, Oddworld, and Metal Gear. Cheat was another great video game-oriented show hosted by Corey Roos originally and was eventually replaced by Kristen Adams, who covered just cheats in video games. I'm not sure cheat codes are even a thing anymore, honestly, but if you were born in the 90s, there's no doubt that inside of every video game case you had folded up a piece of paper where you scribbled down all the cheat codes you found online or from this show. Finally, Cinematech was also in the lineup. This was a really unique but cool show which simply played trailers and cutscenes from popular or obscure video games. Again, you had to put yourself in the time period. YouTube wasn't even around until 2005, so trailers were hard to come by unless you saw them in a commercial, and you would never be able to find clips or cutscenes. But that's just a summary of some of my favorite shows that were on this channel at the time, but there were so many more, like Code Monkeys, a pixelated comedy show, Invent This, Wired for Sex, Electric Playground. All these shows just added to what I loved about gaming and Tech TV. And now, just a year after the merger, Tech TV was dropped from the rebranded name, and now the channel was just known as G4. Despite this, the merger, at first at least, seemed to be the golden era for gaming and tech-related entertainment at the time. This, however, wouldn't last for long, as a new president would step in to bring a new shift in thinking, a shift that he thought was the right path for G4 Tech TV. That man's name was Neal Tiles, and everything changed when Neal Tiles showed up. Neal Tiles is infamous amongst fans of G4 for being the man that single-handedly ruined the channel. So what does Neal Tiles say once he becomes the channel's president? Well, if you needed any more assurance that TV executives are completely disconnected from reality and have their heads so far up their own ass that they don't know which way is up, look no further than Neal's quote as soon as he took over G4. Quote, "Guys like to play games, but not necessarily watch a bunch of shows with games on the screen." End quote. Neal then continued to make G4 a male-oriented channel. Shows like Attack of the Show and Xplay were cut back, showing less than their usual runtimes. This was to make space for shows like Cops and Cheaters. As viewership fell, Comcast, who owned G4 at the time, would consolidate G4, E, and Style Network under one roof in LA, headed by Ted Harper. Harper, unfortunately, also had similar feelings on G4, and said that gaming had been demonstrated as being too narrow. G4 would continue to struggle, but would still be featured on DirecTV. Gaming-oriented shows like I previously mentioned, like Icons, Cheat, Arena, Cinematech, were all eventually canceled to make room for cheaters and cops. I swear there was a time that all that played on G4 were reruns of Cops and Cheaters, non-stop. You'd be lucky to catch 1 or 2 episodes of Xplay, and in 2009, layoffs would impact the staff of one of the most popular programs on G4, Attack of the Show. By 2010, DirecTV had dropped G4. I don't have much personal experience with this as I couldn't watch it anymore, but G4 seemed to have lasted a little longer into 2012. In this year, Neal had stepped down as CEO and president of the channel to be replaced by Adam Stotsky. And in the beginning of 2012, Adam Sessler, longtime host of Xplay, and Kevin Pereira, host of Attack of the Show, both stepped down. By the end of 2012, Xplay and Attack of the Show were canceled. This effectively was the death sentence for G4, as these were the last 2 original and studio-produced shows by G4, now gone, ending its legacy. The writing was on the wall, and G4 was dropped by every last network that carried it by 2014, and it was never heard from again. Until November 24th, 2020. On this date, the Xplay YouTube channel released a video titled A Very Special G4 Reunion Special. Personalities and hosts from the good old days, Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb from Xplay, Kevin Pereira and Olivia Munn from Attack of the Show, host and producer Blair Herder, and Kristen Adams from Cheat. As a longtime fan, this was such a great video to see, bringing all the big hosts back together, recalling some of the best segments of the past shows. It really brought me back to 2004 when I used to watch these guys on my disgusting rear projection TV. Then the reunion episode ended with a nice little teaser, initiating next phase, network relaunch, and people started talking. It seemed like we were getting back what we lost so long ago. On November 16th, 2021, G4 was officially relaunched, mainly on YouTube and Twitch channels, featuring full episodes of Xplay, Attack of the Show, the original Ninja Warrior, Scott the Woz, and Smosh. Didn't know Smosh was still around. G4 fans rejoiced. Seeing Kevin Pereira back on Attack of the Show was fantastic, but this was the only original show to retain the original format. Now, there's a reason for this, because let's be honest, this was now a totally different era for G4 to be coming back to. YouTube and Twitch were already well into their lifespan and immensely popular, so they looked to these platforms for hosts. G4 would go on to hire the Black Hokage, a popular Twitch streamer, Gerard aka the Completionist, a YouTuber who does 100% runs of games, and finally Frosk Incident, a League of Legends coach in 2014 and a League of Legends live commentator from 2015 to 2021 in both the League of Legends Pro League and the League of Legends European Championship. All of these people would now be hosts of the new Xplay along with the returning Adam Sessler. However, G4 decided to change the format of its long-running show to a more roundtable discussion talk show rather than a show with 2 hosts who gave video game reviews. While the bulk program would be long-form live talk shows, Xplay would still upload segments onto their YouTube channel. This would come in the form of specific segments or reviews. This would allow for them to gain more traction and views by maximizing SEO and being able to segment each video into a specific topic. Again, you can enjoy these changes or just not be too excited with the new direction, but either way, it was nice to see G4 back in the limelight, and everything at the time seemed right with the world. Unfortunately though, even with all the talk and hype surrounding the return of G4, the viewership was still not that great, and it was about to get much worse following a specific incident. Out of this entire video, I bet that most people know more about this topic than any other, but even in researching this topic, I found out more information about Frosk that I found very interesting. But if you don't know the gist of it, let's do a quick recap. Frosk, the host of Xplay, decided to take a few minutes out of a segment, which was supposed to be about Red Dead 2 Online, to rant about sexism in gaming. And we can summarize this rant in a couple points. Number 1, Frosk attacked the audience for criticizing her game reviews, saying that the only reason she was criticized was because of gamers' sexist unconscious bias. She argued that both her and Adam Sessler read from the same scripts, but only Frosk would get attacked for her views. And number 2, Frosk also said she was being attacked because she, quote, isn't as bangable as the past hosts like Morgan Webb and Olivia Munn, and that they didn't exist to be nice on the eyes for you. Now, given the supplemental information I found out about Frosk, I really wanted to give my opinion on this, so let's hit on number 1. I will say that I've watched through a lot of Xplay VODs looking for this explicit sexist chatting or hate against Frosk. I honestly could not find it, and trust me, I took a long time to look for it, even when I found the points where I know someone would be making a big stink about Frosk.
Say this a million times to you, and I know that...
Don't touch me.
Okay, never mind. We'll save that.
It just wasn't there. Even in this instance, people were just joking about calling HR. Even during her rant, it was nothing but an outpouring of support. Now, I'm sure if I was able to search the chat log, then I could find some weird stuff said about her. But I'm sure I could find insults against the rest of the crew too. So at least to this end, I couldn't find any evidence. But what I did find was much more interesting. Take a look at this Reddit post, posted 2 years ago and before the G4 revival was announced, titled, "Why do people hate Frosk Incident?" This was posted in the League of Legends subreddit, and the very top post says, quote, "When Frosk was criticized for Semi's casting, instead of doing what Dracos did and acknowledging the issue, she straight up said she was gonna quit," end quote. And then this continues on to say, quote, "When people like Kelsey Moser commented that she felt that the exclusion of men from a panel was a step in the wrong direction, Frosk Incident attacked her and claimed that she, Frosk Incident, was a feminist, implying that Kelsey wasn't because she didn't agree with her." Now this post does continue on to mention more points, that Frosk's seemingly abrasive personality was met with thinly veiled personal attacks, but at the same time some commenters agreed that she can work on some things, but comments like that were mixed in with a few hate-filled comments against her. There was even an article written by Marcus Wong on esports.net which basically explained this exact same thing, that while Frosk has been hit with some genuine criticism and that she can get better in her career, these comments were also included with a couple ones regarding her gender or sexuality. So look, I am coming from this from an unbiased and good faith perspective because I really wanted to get the full story behind this. In my opinion, it's obviously bad to be sexist. Wow, so brave. And I'm sure Frost did get some comments berating her for her gender and sexuality by online trolls who just didn't like her and knew it would get a rise out of her. But at the same time, it seemed like she probably had some things she could work on professionally. But when she saw these valid criticisms, she angrily shot back, calling people who were validly criticizing her sexist pigs. She has even used her power within the League community to get people banned on the subreddit over this and then gloated about it, according to some people on the League subreddit. So by the time she got to be a host on Xplay, she had a big chip on her shoulder, and she decided to let off some steam, and what better place to do it than in front of the entire community that you see as the enemy. There was one critical error though that Frosk made. Her rant had no disclaimer. You know, something that could have said, "Hey guys, I want to talk about sexism in gaming. Just so you know, this isn't going out to everyone that's watching, you know, the ones who are the reason I have my job, just to the small number of people who have trolled me forever about being a woman and a lesbian." I would bet that if she pointed her entire speech at people who were genuinely making sexist comments against her, it would have gone over much smoother and would probably be forgotten about by the next day. But it kind of did come across as her just having a general disdain for the people watching and criticizing her. I could totally agree that people should not be attacked based on whether they're a man or a woman or if they're gay or straight or bi or whatever. That's obviously not okay. But when someone criticizes you for a mistake you made in a review, it's not because they're sexist, it's just because you made a mistake. And unfortunately, this rant painted everyone who criticizes her with a broad stroke of sexist paint, and that is no bueno. Not to mention that up to this point, there really had been no overwhelming evidence presented by Frosk, at least to those viewing the show at the time. I would bet that these were a few DMs or maybe some comments on Reddit posts, which, again, is what every prominent person receives. It's the internet. Now, that was a lengthy segment, but hey, I wanted to give her a fair shake. Where I need to do absolutely zero research is her second point. Number 2, that Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb were not there to be nice on the ice for men. And spoiler alert, that's partly why they were hired by G4. Unfortunately, I feel the executives just saw them as eye candy, as literal pieces of meat to the dogs watching the shows at the time. Which, yes, is disgusting. But honestly, I loved Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb. They were my favorites on G4 next to Sessler and Kevin Pereira. And another spoiler alert, I mean, they're gorgeous. Sorry, can I say that? But in my eyes, and in the eyes of a lot of the fans, that's incidental. And most importantly, they were entertaining. They were fun to watch. And I was always interested in whatever game review that Morgan Webb gave, and to see whatever Olivia was up to on Attack of the Show, where her and Kevin were the perfect co-hosts for each other. So again, to do a 100% run on this research, I went back to the G4 forums. Yes, all the way back to the earliest that I could in 2007 to see if there were any negative sentiments against Munn and Webb. But even in this post about favorite host, Olivia and Morgan were named a bunch of times, and I couldn't find any post that stated they hated them simply because they were women. Now, is it weird that people are attacking Frosk for her not being bangable? Of course, but I don't know why that would bother me so much. The best you could do is just ignore this small fraction of people being morons towards you, and just continue on and give your actual fans what they want. Now, my bottom line on this, do I actually care that Frosk had this rant. If I was a person who called Frosk out for saying something wrong or incorrect while she was live, and now she's calling me a sexist, yeah, I would have a problem with that. So I could understand this from both points, but at the same time, I don't know if this was the best way to go about it. Frosk then ended her speech with the now infamous line, "If you don't like it, don't watch it. Peace." And unfortunately for G4, not watching is basically what a lot of people did. However, in my opinion, this was only one of the small catalysts in the ticking time bomb that was the revival of G4. After the Frosk rant, YouTubers picked it up and spread it like wildfire. I can't even count the number of thumbnails I saw with Frosk painted all over them. In the aftermath of this, the channel lost approximately 6,000 subscribers immediately, and then bled another 4,000 in the month following. As someone said on Twitter, you can agree or disagree with what Frosk said, but there's no denying that it had a negative impact on G4. Even with this drop of subscribers, the main problem was, and always has been, the viewership, before and after the Froskiran speech. So that begs the question, why wasn't the viewership there to begin with? The main problem, in my opinion, and I feel a lot of others' opinion, was simply that a show like G4 cannot exist in the online community as it exists today. There are simply too many streamers and YouTubers on the platform making absolutely insane amounts of content. 500 hours of content are uploaded every single minute to YouTube. That equates to nearly 750,000 hours in a single day. To put it in perspective, that would take you 82 years to watch the content uploaded in a single day on YouTube. And let's be honest, a lot of that is gaming content. So the gaming entertainment space is absolutely saturated with content that G4 used to hold 100% market share in. And now they're simply a small fish in a big pond. But not only that, they're a bloated fish. Not only do all the hosts have to get paid, but the entire camera crew, the writers, the producers, the executives. The videos that Xplay and G4 uploaded would get on average of 20k to 30k views per video. That was simply not enough of a revenue stream to keep G4 going. As I said, the revived G4 was a ticking time bomb. With little viewership, it was only a matter of time before the initial investment to revive the show ran dry, hemorrhaging money day after day. When you step back and look at all this seemed like a horrible business decision. I'm genuinely curious as to how they figured they were going to make it in the first place. Revenue on a channel that has 1 million subscribers can obviously give one person and their significant other a very nice lifestyle. A lifestyle filled with more wealth than most people on Earth. But even if G4 and Xplay channels had this amount of viewership and subscribers, it still wouldn't be enough to give the entire crew producing these shows a salary. So overall, I really don't think this was Frosk's doing. I'm sure she might have made the inevitable demise come a little quicker, but the writing was on the wall from the moment G4 went live again for the first time since 2014. I didn't want this. I did not want G4 to fail. Even with all the controversy surrounding it, I wanted everyone involved to be successful and to revive the channel that was missed dearly by many people online. I used to make time as a kid to watch TechTV, G4 TechTV, G4, whatever iteration you want to call it, every single day. Could that be the problem though? Maybe it wasn't actually as good as we remembered. Maybe we're all just looking at it from a point of nostalgia. Back when we had no other forms of technology or gaming related entertainment. Back when games just weren't as popular as they are today, and this was the only outlet for that. But I really don't think so, and I think this has to do with the hosts. I think the original cast brought such energy and entertainment to the screen. Just watch the reunion special again. You can call it corny, but that's kind of what G4 always was. But you simply can't deny the chemistry that all these people had together. There was a lot of talent in these hosts, and unfortunately it was squandered not once, but twice, by bad decisions and executives running this company into the ground. Even with all these problems with the revival of G4, I honestly enjoyed it. I loved seeing everyone together again, and I was truly entertained by the new things they brought to the show. I even loved the new Xplay format. There really is nothing like Attack of the Show or Xplay available right now, and unfortunately now, it seems like there just won't be. Hopefully someone out there has some idea to bring these shows back in all their glory, but in a way to make the channel viable, so that it lasts longer into the later years where hosts just retire from old age and don't walk away just because an executive didn't want to renew their contract. Who knows, maybe it can happen, but unfortunately, for now at least, I guess this is so long again. It kinda sucks, having to say goodbye to an old friend not once, but twice.